All right, today I'm going to show you how to replace a battery and a touchpad because both of them are underneath of this device. While we're at it, another thing that we're going to learn is actually how to replace a keyboard as well. The first thing that we have to do in order to get to the battery and the touchpad is to remove the keyboard. So that's what we're going to do first. So you kind of learn three things in one with this. Okay, so now if you look closely, some Chromebooks of ours will have these rubber pieces covering the screws. Now, some of these rubber pieces are different shaped because of their position on the Chromebook. So I do not require students to put these pieces back in, but I'm going to use my smallest flathead screwdriver that I have. I'm just going to gently pop out these rubber pieces. They are a little sticky. Okay, so we're just going to gently pop these out. And then if you want to challenge yourself and try to put them back in, go ahead. But I do not require students to do so, you can discard them if you want. The ones that are oddly shaped are the ones in the front. And you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see too well in the video, they're cut at an angle, so they fit flush with the body of the Chromebook. So these front four rubber pieces are different shaped than the rest. So maybe you could, if you wanted to try to keep them, you can kind of set them aside just like that so you kind of know where they go. That's up to you. I'm going to set these aside for now, and I'm going to keep removing all of these rubber pieces here. All right, let's just take a moment. Now there is kind of a hidden one that some people don't notice. It's right here. It's kind of hard to see because even when you're looking closely, because it kind of blends in with this sticker right here. So you got to make sure you get that one as well. If you miss one of these and you try to take the keyboard off, you're going to break something. So you want to make sure that we get all the screws out. There are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 screws. There are a total of 10 screws on the bottom of each one of these Chromebooks. So make sure that you're taking out all of them. Okay, now that we have the screws exposed, we're going to go ahead and unscrew them. We're going to use our smallest Phillips screwdriver to remove these. All of these screws are the same size, so we don't have to worry about separating them by size. They're all the same. And you'll notice that you can unscrew it all the way, and some of them are going to be hard to get out. So we're going to do a different trick with it once we have everything unscrewed. So keep unscrewing them, and you'll kind of feel them click. That means they're fully unscrewed. So keep unscrewing until you kind of hear and feel it click. See, it just means it's unscrewed. Some of these you might have to apply some pressure to. Okay. Just like this one. There we go. So you don't want to sit there and turn the screwdriver when the screw's not turning. If you keep turning the screwdriver, you're going to strip the screw, which means you're not going to be able to get a grip on it with any screwdriver. So as you're turning the screwdriver, push to apply some pressure. Make sure that the head of the screw is turning as well, okay? Okay, I think we already got this one. No, we didn't, but there we go now. Okay. Now this method I'm going to show you for removing the screws is only best if you have a large workspace. So what I can do is I can pull the screws out that I can easily get to and put them beside me. There's usually only one or two that you're going to get by hand easily. I believe that's 2 for me, maybe 3, there we go, and 4 perhaps. Sometimes you got to unscrew them a little bit more. There we go. I was able to get 4 out by hand. I'm going to very slowly flip this over. They do like to fly everywhere, so all you got to do, notice there's 3 screw holes on each corner right here. So usually I kind of do this as I'm flipping it over. I cover those holes. I'm going to very slowly just flip it over and start to feel them pop out. I give it a little shake. Let's see where we're at. Okay, we still have a few in there. Not too hard. That might have sounded loud. That was pretty gentle. Okay, so let's see here. They're all out except for 2 of them. Okay, so some of these guys just don't want to come out very easy. I'm going to use my smallest flathead and very gently just try to pry it out so I can grab it. That's your other way to do it. Sometimes they're hard to pry out. Sometimes you can try unscrewing it a little bit more, flipping it back over. And there we go, we got that one out. Okay, now before we take the keyboard out, we need to triple check that we got every single one of the 10 screws removed, and we do. Okay, so now I'm going to open it up. I need to move my pile of screws out of the way so that I don't accidentally bump it, as it's not easy finding those things once you drop them on the floor. Okay. So the next step is, I like to have the keyboard facing away from me. So I kind of bend it like this. So I'm looking, you know, so the bottom of the keyboard is facing me. And I apologize for the phone. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, let me see if I can give you a good view. This black trim around the Chromebook will stay with the Chromebook. This part is the keyboard that will come up, okay? So I'm going to try with my fingers to hold on to this black trim while I'm pushing against it with my thumb. So I'm kind of pulling back and pushing in with my thumbs at the same time. And you'll see what happens when I do that here. You'll feel it. You got to use a little bit of force. You're going to see, I think it might help if the screen is off, but it doesn't have to be off. I just think it might be easier for you to see. You're going to see this keyboard start to pop up here. Okay? And then once I feel it start to pop up, see that? I'm going to keep going. I can do the same on the other corner. Okay, it's slowly starting to loosen. Once it gets to this point where you have the front of it released, what I like to do is maybe kind of just hold it with my thumb, kind of just pull it away there like I am, and then I can grab the side and just pull it out. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just pulling that black trim. I'm just pulling this black trim away from the keyboard as I'm applying pressure here. So there we go, pulling it away. Now once I get to this point, lay this guy down. I missed a little bit here. There we go. I should be able to slowly lift it up. Notice I'm kind of just pulling on these corners back here. Kind of just pulling them up. Now I don't want to rip this off because there's some cables under here. So what I'm going to do is lift it towards me. See if I can get you a good view on this. You're going to see 2 cables here, okay? I need to get pretty close to this. You have your large ribbon cable, which is for the keyboard. And you have your small ribbon cable, if I can see what I'm doing here, right here for your touchpad, okay? These white pieces, right? This white piece right here, this will lift up. See that? And of course they make it a different color. It's opposite over here. So it's the front. It's the part of the plug facing the cable will always lift up. And you can just use your thumb for this. This will lift right up. Okay, so notice that just lifts up and it just releases the cable. So at this point, I have our keyboard here that is fully removable now from the Chromebook. This gives us access to the battery. We would have to replace a battery when the Chromebook maybe only works when it's plugged in and it never seems to charge, or maybe it says it's fully charged, but the moment we unplug it, it dies, or the battery dies quickly. That's when we would replace a battery. So let's start with that first. To replace a battery, once we get this far, there's only one more screw that we need to worry about, and that is this screw right here. It's just a Phillips screw. This screw is a different size than the other screws from earlier, so we're going to keep this one separate from the other ones. This should come right out. Put that screw aside. Now this battery is free. The only thing we have to worry about right now is this plug right here. This plug is what's holding it in. See if we can get a good shot of that. It is sometimes difficult to get a hold of this plug. It does help if you have fingernails, but a lot of kids that I work with don't seem to have fingernails. So what I'm going to do, usually I can grab, what you want to get is between this black part right here on the plug will come out. The silver part stays. Okay? So I try to get my fingernails between the black and the silver, kind of pull back. So I'm kind of just doing this with the plug and it'll come right out. Okay, so that is free now. So now I can take this battery out. I can just grab a corner, lift it up. That's it. Now, I do want to say, when working with a Chromebook and working with batteries, this is a lithium battery, okay? It's not going to be dangerous in your hands. The only time that this could be dangerous is if for any reason you decide to puncture this. It's not easy to puncture this, but it is possible. So make sure that you're not doing anything with your screwdrivers that would accidentally puncture this battery. They are dangerous when they're punctured, so be careful with them. We also don't throw these away. If you're ever replacing a battery, all students know that I should have the battery. You set the battery aside and you make sure that it gets back to me. So anyways, we would take our battery out. Totally comes out now. We'll get our new battery. New batteries are also in stock here at Otsego. We will put our new battery into place. Now these speakers here, these guys right here, these two black things, these are just the speakers. They do come loose. If they pop out of place, they're easy to snap it right back into place. They should kind of stay put, but sometimes they move around a little bit. They are secured by the screws that we took out underneath. So once we put this thing back together, they'll stay in place. You want to make sure there is a frame around this that the battery needs to sit in. So you want to make sure that your battery is completely setting flat in that frame. Now we're going to take this plug, okay? We're going to plug it back in. Now what you want to make sure when you plug this in is that you get it lined up, and this black part should almost, the black part of this plug right here, this black part should be almost completely invisible when you plug this in. So watch as I'm plugging it in. Try to grab the corners of it. As you see that, it's kind of hard to see, but I notice that black part of the plug is almost completely invisible now. That's when you know it's plugged in, okay? At this point, we just do everything backwards to replace the battery. So we would take our single screw that we took out earlier that was different and put that back into place. Okay, remember we don't over tighten, and once the screw stops, we just make sure it's snug. And that's it for the battery. Now, I am also going to show you is the keyboard and touchpad. Now, this was the keyboard we just removed. If for any reason we have a Chromebook that needs a keyboard replaced, we would have, as soon as we would take this out, we're going to grab another keyboard and go through the process of reconnecting it, which I will do in a minute. I want to show you first the touchpad here. There are some times when we need to replace a touchpad. Okay, this is our touchpad right here, and this is removable. Some of the keyboards that we purchase here will come with a touchpad and some won't. So if I have a Chromebook that needs a new keyboard, I might have to take the old keyboard out, take the touchpad out, and put the touchpad in the new keyboard. Sometimes we just have a touchpad that's bad, and we do have spare touchpads here. So there are reasons that we would need to remove this. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. We're going to flip this guy over so the touchpad is facing me. And there are 3 screws that we need to remove here. It's kind of hard to see here. Let's get these ribbon cables kind of out of the way. It's these 3 screws right here. They are kind of large screws, but they require your smallest Phillips that we work with, okay? So I'm going to use my smallest Phillips, and I'm going to apply a little bit of pressure while I unscrew this. They're not very long screws, okay? So I'm going to set these screws aside in a separate pile. You can see it's kind of how they have a large head on them. If I can find my camera there, but they're not very big. Okay. Set those aside. Let's get the third one out. There are 3 of them holding this touchpad in. Once I get all 3 screws out, what I want to do is kind of lift up. I want to push from underneath. And you'll see it lifts up a little bit and then it slides. Sorry, I'm stuck on something here. Oh, there we go. So the way this works is you lift up and pull it out, okay? And there was a little piece of metal right here that got stuck. That's fine. It kind of just bends back into place. Now, I do want to say you need to be careful. Be mindful of what you're doing. These thin pieces of metal, they're not sharp, but if you catch yourself on it wrong, you could potentially cut yourself. So make sure that you're not in a hurry when you're working with this. You're moving at a steady pace and you're paying attention to what you're doing. So what you would do in this case, you would get your new touchpad. Sometimes the touchpads do not have this ribbon cable attached to them. So what we would do in that case is pop this ribbon cable off, which lifts up right here, just like it did on the motherboard. This would pull out, and we'd put the ribbon cable back in. I'm going to show you how to insert ribbon cables right now. So, my bad, I did that wrong. We're going to start from inside. We're going to slide this in. There are these little notches. There's little notches right here on this end and on that end. Those need to catch right inside here. So I'm going to, these tabs, you can see them kind of right here. See if I can get a better view of that. This will kind of lift up on this, which you can see what can happen. I can just fall right through. So you want to kind of hold this in my hand and line those tabs up. Let's try that again. Maybe lift up there. It's kind of tricky. You get used to it. You'll know you got it in place when you see your tabs right there, and that this is sitting down flush so that your screw holes are lined up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put in these flat screws that we took out, the 3 flat screws. We're going to put these back in. You can just lay those kind of where they need to go. They should stay put. Same with these screws. We don't over tighten. The moment they stop turning, make sure they're snug. And there we go. We just replaced the touchpad. So this touchpad has just been replaced. So far we've learned how to replace a battery and a touchpad. We've also learned how to take the keyboard out. Now we're going to look at putting the keyboard back in. This does get a little bit tricky, but we're gonna make it through it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get this guy out of the way. I'm gonna get our Chromebook back here, and I'm gonna show you where this needs to go. So if you remember where these, when we took these ribbon cables out earlier, get a good view of it here. That's where the large ribbon cable goes. I can pull that piece up right there, make sure it's standing up. And this is where our touchpad ribbon cable goes, our small ribbon cable. I'm gonna pop this up so that it's standing up as well. Now, what I like to do, and everyone might have their own way of doing this, before I show you how to hold this keyboard while you're plugging it in, I do wanna show you, I have the keyboard right here as well. I'm gonna show you the ribbon cable. So this ribbon cable right here. This is the cable on the large ribbon cable on for the keyboard. There's little notches that stick out right there and right there on that side. Okay, those notches fit perfectly right inside here. That's what this little tab here is for, and that tab there is. So the notches on this ribbon cable here, that notch right there will fit right inside there. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. The touchpad cable, on the other hand, is different. It doesn't have any notches to line up. It is simply has this blue tip. Now you'll notice, if I can get it in the camera view here, the blue tip is on top. Okay, you don't want let's see if I can arrange it here. This side, without the blue tip, it has those metal pins on it. That's the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna line it up like this. Now you'll notice there is a black line on this ribbon cable. That lets you know that you have it plugged in all the way. That's what we're going to be looking at. So I think I'm going to start with the ribbon cable, the small touchpad cable first. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit first and show you how I hold this keyboard, okay? So I have the bottom facing me, and I'm going to keep this guy vertical like this, and I'm kind of lean it against my body. I'm going to lean it against the top of my chest so that I have both hands to work with right here. So actually get close to it. I'm balancing it against almost by my neck right now, and then I'm going to use both hands to plug these cables in here. Let's get a good view so you can see what's happening. Okay, so we're going to start with, I'll tell you what, I'm going to start with the keyboard cable first because that one is a little bit harder to unplug. So as I'm balancing this keyboard on me, if I accidentally jolt it back, this one hangs in there a little bit better. So if you watch carefully here, you'll know it's in when you see those two tabs on the blue cable, the blue end I showed you, those two tabs sticking out. You'll know it's in when they look like they wrap around those notches on each side. So now that I have it in here and I'm holding it in, I'm going to push down on this guy. Okay? So now we know that's connected. We're going to do the same thing for the touchpad cable. And this touchpad cable, it might be kind of hard to see. There's a black bottom to this. You have the white top here. You kind of see some gold pins on this lid, this piece that pops up, and then there's black underneath. We're going to go on top of the black and under this white lid. Okay, that's kind of where we're looking at sliding this cable. And I do have to lean the keyboard even more forward to do this. And I can tell that it slid in. I can kind of feel that. Now this black line right there that you see on the blue head of this cable, when I push this down, that black line should not be visible or barely visible. It kind of tells you that you have it lined up properly, okay? If you see the black line or the black line is kind of going at an angle a little bit, you know you don't have it plugged in all the way. You want that black line to almost disappear. So now that we have both of these back in, we can lay our keyboard down So you can kind of see how I'm holding this now. So now I'm going to lay this down gently. Okay, this back here a little bit. And what I'm going to do before I snap this down, because it takes a while to pop it back off, since we have those ribbon cables attached, I can go ahead and hold the power button for a moment and make sure that it turns on. So this would be our battery. This would make sure that our battery is working if I replace the battery. It also tells us that the keyboard is plugged in properly. And of course, if it's dead, which this one might be, I don't know if it was close to being dead or not, we might have to plug some power into it. So thankfully I have a power cable right here. Let's go ahead and plug the power in. And we'll try to turn it on. Oh, and this might be interesting. This one's actually not turning on. So it could be a couple of things. Since I've done numerous things to this, oh, there you go. So of course it just took a moment, and that is common sometimes. You might have to just press it. You might have to hold it for a moment. But if it didn't turn on, the first thing I would do is gently pull the keyboard up and check my ribbon cable. But then I would also look at that battery cable. If I had replaced the battery, I would want to look at that battery cable that we looked at earlier and just make sure that that's plugged in all the way as well. Anyways, we know that the Chromebook turns on, so we can go ahead and turn it off. This is all low voltage. You're not going to get electrocuted touching anything in the computer if it was powered on. But we're going to go ahead and unplug it anyways. And now, once I have the keyboard kind of lined up here, we can just start pushing down until we hear it and feel it snap. So I'm going to go ahead and push down all around this. And you do have to apply a little bit of pressure to this. Sometimes it helps if you pick it up in your hand. See, kind of snap it into place. And then you do even have to push right here in the middle. Sometimes it's okay to press the keys. I'm not being too forceful. I'm just making sure that it snapped everywhere, which it feels like it did. And then I'm kind of going around the edge here, just making sure that I don't see any parts sticking up anywhere. All around here, I don't see anything sticking up anywhere, so it looks good. So what we can do is close it up now. I like to kind of face it towards me like this. Now we're going to put all our screws back in. So I like to just lay the screws in there first. So we'll go around here. Put all our screws back in here. Couple more. Remember that we have 10 screws. Make sure that you got all 10 screws here. And same rule as always, when we're screwing these down, you just stop when the screw stops and make sure that it's snug. We don't over tighten these. It is kind of a pain when you find a Chromebook with a screw that is stripped, because it's really hard to get those screws out. And notice I don't just randomly pick a screw to tighten. I like to go around in a circle so that I know I'm getting every screw and I'm not missing any. Okay, so we're tightening every single screw. Don't forget about this one in the middle here that's kind of hidden. Alright, we're almost there. Get this guy. And finally the one in the middle here in the center. Okay. Now, double check, make sure that all your screws look like they're screwed in. If you want to triple check, and slowly flip it over. Make sure that nothing falls out. Okay. At that point, we've just learned how to replace a battery, a keyboard, and a touchpad. Once again, now that you have everything snapped in and screwed in, you can turn it on one more time. This is important. What you want to do is make sure that your keyboard works and that your mouse works, okay? So as the Chromebook boots up, I see my mouse cursor, so I know that the touchpad is working. If I see the cursor moving, I know the touchpad's working. Also, I can just try to type some letters in there real quick. I see that I'm typing as well, so we know that the keyboard works. Okay? And that's it. So if you've gotten this far, congratulations. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.